The journey of Gintama still has one final chapter to it, bro. And even though it's like a trollish chapter there at the end, whenever I saw that manga panel started coming up, I was like, you know what? I want to read this on the channel because I've been covering every single Gintama manga chapter that's been released since chapter, I believe it was 502. So, like, I've covered every single Gintama manga chapter since chapter 502 between the old channel and this channel. So I was like, you know what, man? I have to do it. I have to come out here and I have to react to whatever this trollish final chapter of the manga, or final, like, side chapter of the manga is. But it's at the end of the fan book, and when, like I said, I was reading through the fan book up until this point, and then whenever I saw that, I was like, nah, man, I gotta start recording. But before we get into that, I really do want to go through the rest of the fan book with y'all and just skim through certain portions that I thought were really, really funny and or noteworthy. So I will be going through spoilers. So if you have not read up until the end of the series, if you have not read up until chapter 704, please do not watch this video because I will be talking about spoilers in depth for the ending of Gintama, man. So do not watch this video if you're an anime only, because once again, there will be spoilers for the finale of the series. Now, if you want to find this interview, I'm going to leave a link to it in the comment section down below and in the description box. So if you want to follow along for some Gintama awesome sauce, you're more than welcome to, because this interview was downright hilarious, bro. It's some great stuff. It's just Sorachi and his editors just trolling. Now, the beginning of the fan book, or at least the interview portion of it, starts off with Sorachi with his apology emails to his editors and him saying I'm sorry for certain things, lying. Like, there was this one really, really funny one, bro. It's this one right here. It's titled I Wasn't Trying to Lie. Just imagine this. Just imagine this in Gintoki's voice, bro. What I'm about to say, just imagine in Gintoki's voice. In response to what should have been an emotional moment, the Psycho Gorilla yelled, "Huh? You seriously all came? I'm not done yet. Go have a drink somewhere, please." These middle-aged men that had squeezed into the studio just stood there. You know, when Kishimoto-sensei finished his series, he ended it right when he said he would, and we all went out to a drink afterwards, shouted the first editor, Mr. O. "What? I can't do things like Kishimoto-sensei can. I think that's pretty obvious," retorted Mr. Sorachi. Like, Sorachi's like, dog, I'm not Kishimoto. I'm the clout that Kishimoto has. I just find that to be downright hilarious, man. One of my favorite things about this entire fan book is the fact that the editors make as many references to other series as the series does. Like, you know how many references Gintama has to other series, man. I mean, now, even on rewatches, I'm catching references to other series I didn't catch the first time because I've gotten into more series since I first got into Gintama. Like, that's how many references are in the series. Now, in the interview, every single other sentence is a reference to another series. I'm like, bro, the editors and Sorachi truly carry the heart and soul of the series within their hearts, man. 100%. 100%, man. So yeah, this entire first portion right here was basically just a lot of like the trollish editor notes, or not the editor notes, but the text messages that the editors would have with Sorachi, and Sorachi just saying, I'm sorry, like, I'm not going to get the chapter done on time for certain things, and it's great stuff. I definitely highly recommend reading that. Now, this next portion right here is the part I really want to talk about. This junk was absolutely hilarious, man. It is Sorachi with all of his previous editors in a roundtable discussion. A 6-hour-long discussion, bro. So I'm going to go ahead and just skim through this just to see which stuff I want to talk about, because there definitely was some noteworthy things when it came to the series itself and some other stuff that I thought was pretty funny. Okay, so right here, Sorachi says, okay, but before any of that, I'm not going to get kicked out of Jump forever, right? Passing by Editor-in-Chief Nakano. Oh, hey, job well done, man. Don't worry. We're not kicking you out of Weekly Shonen Jump. We'll be happy to have you back anytime. And what I'm so happy about that is that Sorachi later on in the interview talks about the fact that he would like to write a series either than Jump or another magazine that is still like in the shonen type of demographic, because he says that he doesn't want to go into seinen because dirty jokes in seinen are the norm, and I found that to be downright hilarious. So I'm like, yo, that's just classic Sorachi, bro. It's like, yeah, man, I'm not gonna be like everyone else. I'm just gonna keep doing this thing I shouldn't be doing in a magazine that I'm gonna do it in. So it's like, hey, screw it, why not, bro? That's his way of having fun. Another thing right here, Saito says, well, for you, Sorachi-san, how was it? Did you think that it was the best ending you could have written? And Sorachi says, I'm not sure, but I guess I did what I could. Nakasaki, once again, this is what I'm saying with, if you are not caught up to Gintama, please do not watch this video, because what I'm about to say is really, really spoiler heavy. So here we go. Nakasaki says, is it okay to take that baby that appears at the end as Takasugi reborn? So this is something very, very important because this is something that all of us as viewers were talking about. We were discussing whenever chapter 704 came out. Because after 703, we were like, yo, what's going to happen with Takasugi? And the last thing I expected was that he was reborn as a child and Ramatako picked him up, right? So, but listen to what Sorachi has to say about that. Nakasaki once again asks if can we take that baby that appears at the end of Takasugi Reborn. Sorachi says, please don't ask about the details. Everyone laughs. Sorachi says, once you have read the manga, that's it. That's what I've put out. If you want every little thing explained, that's just awkward. And that's just classic Sorachi right there. And then Isaka says the fans seem to really want to know the answer so they can feel at ease. Nakasaki says, but I wonder if presenting something as someone being saved is a kindness to the fans. Sorachi says, to be honest, I thought maybe it gave off more of an image of saving the Kiheitai rather than whether it was Takasugi. Man, things got serious fast. Listen to that again. To be honest, I thought maybe it gave off more of an image of saving the Kiheitai rather than it was Takasugi. And I think the way that Sorachi means it in that way is that Takasugi was technically already saved. In chapter 703, whenever he had that final moment, not only just with Shoyo, but with Gintoki, we were able to see Takatsugi's moment of salvation and his redemption arc truly coming 100% to a close, an amazing conclusion to his character. And I think what Sorachi was trying to say is that he did not need to have Takatsugi technically be reborn in order to save him. He did it because he knows that Takatsugi, or the entity of Takatsugi, the idea of Takatsugi, saved the Kiheitai. And so I found that to be very, very fascinating because in his mind, Takatsugi was already saved, but he still needed that entity to be there in order to save the rest of the Kiheitai. Very, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff, and I like that he at the very least said that, even if he didn't want to go more in depth into the whole Takatsugi thing. So then, continuing on, Nakasaki says, yeah, we turned the topic to Takatsugi, someone it's really hard someone who's really hard to make jokes about, but I think leaving the interpretation to the readers is a good directorial choice. Personally, I'm not a big fan of reincarnation, things like that, so I like the idea that it's a different person more. Sorachi says, like, what if Matako raised him and he grows up into some old dude nobody ever met, and then everybody just laughs like, yo, that's just classic Sorachi, bro. Yeah, like, can you imagine that in like an aftermath chapter where Sorachi writes like, yeah, 50 years later they all grow up and they're like, who's this guy? He's not Takatsugi, he's just some random dude. That's classic Sorachi comedy, man. That is classic Sorachi comedy. And then going up here into more for the ending stuff, Honda says, up to this point, you drew a lot of final chapter-like stories, like the Farewell Shinsengumi arc, but when I read the actual final chapter, it gave me the most there's more to come feeling than any of them. Like, even with the series over, it feels like the world of Gintama is still going, and Gin-san is still living there. I really like that. Now, that is my favorite thing about the final chapter of Gintama, is that Sorachi, it felt like he ended the series at so many different points, and yet the final chapter felt like the biggest, oh, there's going to be a chapter next week, chapter that there is. And I love that so much because if the main character is not going to die, then my favorite endings are the ones that make you feel like there was still, you're satisfied, but the world continues to run. And I know that wouldn't work, or there's certain series where that does not work, but in Gintama's case it does work because of the type of series that it is. Gintama is a series that's like the weekly type of sitcom that will continue to run and run and run and run. And what I love so much about the finale of the series is that Sorachi's telling you, yes, the world that Gintoki and them are still in is still going on and still going up in like some of the Yorozuya will still continue to do odd jobs and all that stuff for as long as time will go on. And I love that so much for the ending. Whenever we got that massive, like, holy flag darts moment in 704, I was like, yo, Sorachi didn't do it. There's no way Sorachi did this. And whenever he actually gave us what actually happened, towards the end of the chapter, I was like, man, dude, what a genius. Because it truly is a perfect ending to the Gintama series. Like, yes, the series is over, but Gintoki and his friends are still going up in like swim or being as trollish as they always have been. The world will still continue to go on. It was such a great ending, and I'm glad that Honda also felt that way as well, man. So here we go. Well, Sorachi says, it's in the comment at the end of the fan book too, but I purposefully tried not to give a feeling like it's ending. And then Nakasaki jokes, like, so Gintama 2 can start any time, right? And great stuff right there. Then Let me see. And then Sorachi says, like, if it weren't the real final chapter, then I'd be fine with doing that anytime. But if I'm talking about my own tastes, I kind of prefer the lonely, being left behind kind of final chapters. But I figured that wasn't the thing to do for Gintama. And then he says, are there any final chapters in any other manga that you really liked? And I love this part right here. As a fan of Slam Dunk, I loved what he said right here, man. He says, I actually prefer the part just a little bit before the end, which tells me why chapters 700 to 703 were so amazing, because he prefers that in a series rather than the final chapters themselves. They just always give you that lonely feeling. But I guess in Slam Dunk, when Sakuragi and Rukawa high-fived each other, was the one I really liked. But I wanted to see a match with Hiroshi too. And what's fascinating about that is that Sorachi is saying, like, you know what? That ending was great, but it also left like more to be read. It was satisfying, but at the same time, it was more to be read. And that's what I love so much about Slam Dunk's ending as well, is that very same feeling that Sorachi's talking about there. So then they continue going on, trolling. Sorachi says that he has a lot of respect for Fujimaki, which is the author of Kuroko no Basket, and for Takahiko Inoue, of course, the author of Slam Dunk and Vagabond, which he also references to later on. And in this part right here, bro, this part right here is fantastic, dog. I love this part so much. And it just makes me think, yo, I really do think this man Sorachi has someone in this community. If it's not me, if it's not some of the other YouTubers or somewhere on Twitter, Reddit, Sorachi has seen some of our comments. And this is a confirmation that Sorachi has seen, at the very least, some things that we have done and talked about in the series. My man Sorachi says, I did a whole lot of Googling to see how people react to the ending. I kind of Google myself in my work a lot. I search things like Sorachi Genius and Sorachi Incredible, stuff like that. This dude's a troll, bro. This dude is a troll. Like, yo, I was just imagining, I was like, man, if this man has ever watched a video of mine, he must, number one, think I'm insane. He must, number one, think I'm insane. And number two, he's like, yo, what is wrong with this brown guy and his obsession with Takasugi? I promise you that is exactly what he thinks, bro. Because I bring Takasugi up in every possible situation I can, because he's the flipping GOAT. Even though Gintoki is my favorite character, y'all know how I feel about Takasugi, man. And it's like, yeah, man, what is wrong with this brown guy? I always bring up Takasugi, dog. I can just imagine him trolling, the drink in his hand, talking to his editors. But even if Sorachi has never watched a video of mine, it's super cool to know that someone in this community has had like their comment and or their opinions and thoughts on the ending of the series and on the series itself being looked at by Sorachi, because Sorachi obviously does care about other people's opinions on the series, as it's indicated and shown here. So, yo, one of us has had a comment viewed by Sorachi, so I think that's pretty cool. And then Sorachi says, so I'm aware that people, and this is, once again, going back to the ending when it comes to Takasugi. So I'm aware that people that like Takasugi more weren't as happy. You know how I feel. You know how I feel. And it's true, it's not clear if that's Takasugi or not. But I felt like after all this, Takasugi didn't need to be saved. Like, I felt that he'd already been saved. I think the impression people get differs depending on how they look at the final battle with Utsuro. But in my mind, that wasn't written with the intention for it to be a tragedy, though I was crying as I drew it. Man, my man was crying. Sorachi was crying while going through and drawing chapter 703, man. That hits home. That hits home because all of us, every single reaction that I watched, me, everybody in my comments, every single last one of us, at the very least, got teary-eyed while reading chapter 703. Chapter 703 is one of the most emotional chapters I have ever read. Ever. In the history of this medium. That's one of the greatest chapters that I have ever read, and one of the only experiences where I've had here on the channel where I've legitimately cried while doing a video, bro. And Gintama's been most 519, Nobu's death, and then chapter 703. And then chapter 704, I teared up a bit, but 703, man, I had to walk away from the camera for a little bit, bro. That junk hurt. That junk hurt, man. That was so. Like, I think about myself as a reader. I think about all of you as fans and the other people that were doing reactions here on YouTube and everybody on Twitter and on Discord, Reddit, and whatnot. And all of us felt the same about the 703. And then, like, how must Sorachi himself have felt about that chapter? You know, he's the one that wrote and created this universe. He's the one that was going in there and creating these characters and writing them on a weekly basis. Like, he cares more about them than we do. And so the simple fact that he was, you know, ending one of the key and integral portions of the series, and the manner that he did, I can only imagine that he must have cried, bro. It's because he cried that we all cried. Because you just felt the emotion pouring through the pages, man. And just seeing the Sorachi cried right there. I mean, every time I go back and I read some mangaka interviews, you can tell that in the moments that a lot of us cry, they also cry too. You know, in the interviews that I've read with Kishimoto from Naruto and Oda from One Piece, they also have cried in specific scenes that have made us tear up and get emotional. And just to see the Sorachi does that as well, it makes so much sense. Because, you know, they care more about those characters than we do. You know, they're the ones that created them. So, and then Sorachi continues, but they were a different kind of tears, I guess. Takasugi had originally sort of died during the incident where he lost Shoyo, but he was just out there searching for a way to die. So in the life and or death state, measuring him was a bit different. And he just trolls, he's like, oh, it's Matsuo-san! It's like, yo, this guy's insane, bro. It's like, he goes from delivering something very, very serious, and then he just jokes around. Like, that's just classic Sorachi, bro. Classic flipping Sorachi. But, and then we continue on through here. They're just doing more trolling, talking with each other. And then right here, they start talking about the fake final chapter. Come on, go to the next page. And they have this little group chat thing. Let me see. Some of this stuff was absolutely insane, man. Like, you could just tell that all these guys really do embody the spirit of Gintama, man. Let me see. And Sorachi talks about lying about certain things. The repeated it's ending grift. So what are your kind of thoughts on the series ending? Sorachi says, well, nothing's really changed. I'm still doing work on a bunch of different things, only I have this anxiety about what's going to happen to me after all these little tasks are gone. So to be honest, I'm not all that happy about it. And then Sorachi says, I'm sort of anxious about becoming a gear of society. Saito says, like a feeling that people won't need you anymore. And then Sorachi says, well, if I'm not drawing manga, I'm pretty much just trash, right? I have a sense that because I draw manga, I can just manage to establish myself as a human, sort of. Like Sorachi feels like manga was his calling, man. You know, manga is what makes him feel alive. Manga is what makes him feel like he's not trash. Like that he contributes some sort of value to society. And you know, even though he probably means that in a very, very trollish way, I'm pretty sure he also means that from the bottom of his heart, because I understand him. I understand how he feels whenever he says that. You know what I'm saying? Especially that sort of part about I'm sort of anxious about becoming a gear of society. Like, this is what made him stand out. This is what made him bring some sort of value to the world. And for him to not to have that anymore is probably a scary thought for him. Which is exactly why I know Sorachi wants to start another work as soon as possible. Because you can just tell, with just the way that Gintama is, how much he not only cared for the story and the characters themselves, but how much he referenced other series. Sorachi loves manga, man. Sorachi loves this entire medium way too much to not do it anymore. So, he will come back one day. He will come back one day and deliver some awesome sauce. They even start trolling about this man getting a part-time job. Can you imagine Sorachi having a part-time job somewhere? Like, oh, man. Just run into Sorachi. Okay, yo, this part right here, very, 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 very important stuff for me, at least. Because I had always wondered this, and this is actually a question that I would ask him. I remember somebody asked me in my Q&A, what's a question that I would ask him? This would be one of the questions that I would ask him if I ever had a one-on-one interview with Sorachi. So, Sorachi right here says, in my mind, we firmly entered the final arc when the Shogun died, though I hadn't said anything publicly at that point. That's very, very interesting because, and how it led up to this point is they were talking about how the editor started, when the editor started, whenever they were, like where do they hop on in certain points in the series, talked about certain gag chapters, some hopped on during the Shogun arc, some hopped on during Silver Soul, you know, stuff like that. And so they asked Sorachi, you know, when did they think that that he was starting that path towards the ending? I mean, Isaka was talking about how, you know, in 2015 and 2014, whenever we started the Shogun arc, and then it started talking about, you know, how Yu Yu Hakusho had 20 volumes or so, which, you know, was getting towards the ending and everything, and they just bring up a couple other things, but then Sorachi said, in my mind, we firmly entered the final arc when the Shogun died, though I hadn't said anything publicly at that point. So in Sorachi's mind, once chapter 524 came out, he was like, you know what, this is the road to the final chapter. This is the road to the final arc, which makes so much sense considering how fast and how emotional, how he felt everything was truly coming, like, holy flagness, the whole series it felt like it just blew up right here in the Shogun arc and in Farewell Shinsengumi. Because, in the Rakuyo saga, whenever they go into a different planet to take on, Kagura's story with Kamui, that definitely was, that you saw a lot of resolution. The Joy 4 getting together, bro. Like, you saw a lot of stuff that we've been waiting the entire series to see in the Rakuyo saga. So you could just tell the Sorachi from chapter 524 up until the end. And then the Farewell Shinsengumi arc had so many things that were like indicating end of series is incoming. End of series is incoming. It was a crazy time. Crazy time. But, you could just tell in that stretch that Sorachi was truly thinking about the end. And he wanted to do as many things that he's always wanted to do in this series. So it's very interesting, though, that to him, the series' final arc started, and the final saga started when the Shogun died. And to be honest with you, even though all of us look at the end of Gintama starting with episode 300/chapter 502 with the beginning of Shogun Assassination, but in Sorachi's mind, even while drawing Shogun Assassination, he was like, you know what? There's still certain things. But no, at the same time, I can't really say that because he named the arc Shogun Assassination, so whenever he started it, he knew how he was going to end it. So he was like, yo, this is it. I'm starting the beginning of the end. What an incredible arc, man. That's my favorite arc of all time. So to know that, like, he had that in mind while drawing it, like, yeah, man, this is it. This is going to start the path towards the finale. No wonder it was so amazing. And then this is right here. Oh, so this is very interesting stuff, too. Manabe says, in those days, I would get calls from the anime's producers, the guys at BNP, asking how's it going to verify what was going on, since the anime was also trying to plan out their end as they got to the end of the source material. And Saka says, when I became editor, the first meeting I had with the anime staff was, what should we do for the final episode of the anime? I was fine with taking the baton from Manabe, but at the point where Sorachi was doing the gorilla wedding in Weekly Shonen Jump, everyone got like, oh, it's not really ending yet, is it? The questionnaires from that chapter were really good, though. Well, of course, because everybody loves that Sorachi comedy, dog. Now, you know how much we missed it? You know how much we missed the Sorachi comedy chapter, especially when our hearts were being torn out throughout the entire Shogun, Farewell, and Rakuyo sagas? Those arcs are all 11 out of 10 arcs, and we love them off the bottom of our hearts. But at the end of the day, man, our hearts are being torn out, bro. I just wanted some classic Sorachi comedy in my life, man. I know I wasn't the only one, bro. So, like, the fact that we were actually getting those at the end of the series was like, yo, this is truly coming full circle here. And I'm pretty sure that's how the readers felt as well. And then it has right here Sorachi's apology message, which, give me 1 second. I'm going to get some water, and then we'll continue on here. All right, so his apology message to the fans, just in case you have not read this, I'm going to go ahead and read it so that we can all read it together. He says, I'm reading this late at night, and this is coming from Sorachi, of course. I'm writing this late at night on Thursday, June 13th, and I finally finished Gintama's final chapter. But having gone past the point where we could get this out for the planned time on Monday, all of my editors over the years that had been ready with bundles of flowers to celebrate me finishing the final manuscript immediately turned those bundles of flowers into weapons and pelted me with them one after another. Just know I whittled down my third editor's posture gauge and stabbed my G-pen into his temple to get a shinobi execution my fourth editor sprouted from his back. Sorachi's always doing references, even in his messages, bro. Like, yo, he's insane! You can truly see the Gintama coming out whenever Sorachi talks. Like, yo, it's a part of his soul, bro. And he says, yada yada, it seems like no matter what I do, there's no happy end for me. Nah, just kidding. I'm really sorry about the repeated delays to all the readers out there that have been anticipating this. But the release date has only been delayed 3 days to Thursday. After all my crimes of repeatedly having fake-out endings and delaying the final volume and character book release date, I have no hope of recovery as a weekly manga author. I've probably lost my chance of ever being in Jump again, and I'll have to draw manga while fighting with death row prisoners in an underground fighting arena. But even if that's the case, I have nothing but gratitude to all the readers and the motionless corpses of my editors laying at my feet for allowing me to reach the final chapter I wanted to draw. Because you know how badly I wanted to draw it, man. You know, deep down in Sorachi's soul, he really, really wanted to draw that final chapter of Gintama. He really, really did. He would not have gone out of his way to draw those trollish chapters, knowing that he would have that finale in Giga and then in the app, if he didn't really want to draw it, man. And Sorachi's the type of dude that he prioritizes creative liberty over manga sales. Knowing Sorachi, we know my guy wants his money, and I want him to get paid too. But we know deep down inside, Sorachi prioritizes creative liberty and telling a wonderful story over just making money. And we saw that in the ending, man. We really, really did. We saw him pour his entire heart out into that phenomenal stuff and do stuff that we know, just like he said, was not going to make the readers happy, but he needed to do it for the betterment of the story. And it was phenomenal, man. But he continues on saying, thank you all so much. This is sounding less and less like an apology. I'm really sorry about that. So yeah, the 20th, please wait just until the 20th. This time, it's seriously ending. Let's meet again in the final chapter. See ya. And Sorachi continues. And then here we have, we're getting back from the apology letter into some more of the, talking about the end with the Jump Giga stuff. So Sorachi says, but I really believed I could finish it in 5 chapters. Saito says, weren't you at least nervous? You'd already announced just 5 more, and then you were still drawing a gorilla wedding. Well, let me just say, Sorachi says, well, let me just say, we've decided to move it to Jump Giga before that point. Isaka says, but we were discussing staying in Jump at least until Utsuro was beaten. We felt that it would be inexcusable but to the readers if we didn't. The idea being the main story would be done in the main magazine, then Jump Giga would only have sort of an epilogue, but once the gorilla wedding started, that was kind of out the window. Yo, can you just imagine Sorachi drawing the gorilla wedding? Like, yeah, you know what, dog? I wanted to have Utsuro defeated, but screw it, gorilla wedding. Gorilla wedding! I can just imagine him submitting the storyboard to the editors like, boy, Sorachi, dog, like, you only have 5 chapters left, you know? He's like, gorilla wedding! Yeah, that's insane. Like, what was Utsuro gonna do if he showed up here? The only way to do the final battle would be if he went down in one punch. Saito says, why did you put that gorilla story right in the middle of the ending there? It was pretty entertaining, though. Then Sorachi says, when I was first writing the 2 years later epilogue, I showed them leaving. So I wanted to draw everyone coming home. But to be honest, I went a little crazy at that point and just figured it would be fine to just not end it and lose the place I was serialized at. As long as we could announce it in the volumes, then it would be fine. So it's once again just Sorachi showing, like, you know what, I just wanted to write. I just wanted to draw what I wanted to draw, bro. You know, screw everything else. Let's just write the story I want to draw, man. Isaka says, and then finally going to the Gintama app for serialization was decided in pretty short order. We figured it would be nice to give a boost to the app side of things, but I think allowing an app serialization with no deadlines or page number limitations was a real error in judgment. Which is also very interesting too, because they also bring it up later on in the magazine. I don't remember exactly where it is, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Later on in the fan book, they talk about how the final chapter of Gintama was 63 pages long, but they originally came down to a point to where the deadline and the decided manuscript was 59 pages. So Sorachi had to cut out 4 pages of the Gintama chapter. And so what he did was he mixed around and pasted, like, cut out certain panels from a chapter or from the page that it was in and would put it in, but some other stuff he was not able to do that with. And later on, it even shows off some of the cut panels and pages, which we'll get to that whenever we get to it. But I really do hope that they, for some of that cut content, because some of that cut content, man, I'm not gonna lie, some of that I can tell why it is that he wanted to just leave it off. But some of that cut content, I would love to see at the very least in the anime. At the very least in the anime, I feel like it would be, whenever the movie comes out, it would just fit so well to have that, some of that stuff be in there. But, yeah, let's see right here. Joy and sorrow regarding the manuscript. Here it is. So Sorachi says, the truth is I actually wanted to use more space to tell the story. It was decided that the final chapter would have 59 pages, but when I actually did it, it came out to around 63 pages. So then I had to cut and paste parts of the manuscript and find a way to cut it down. 4 pages, and 4 pages is a lot, you know, so it was like cutting off my own arm. Sorachi was definitely struggling there. Let me see. That's very, very fascinating, man. Just knowing that Sorachi, like, he had so many things he wanted to draw that he ended up going overboard. Like, that's amazing to me, man. And that chapter was already long enough, but he even had even more stuff. Which, go and click on that link that I'm telling you about, and go look at some of those cut pages and cut panels that I'm talking about, man. Some of that stuff, yeah, some of that stuff hit. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, yo, if that would have been the final chapter, man, that would definitely have added on to the emotional value and impact, for sure. So then, you know, they continue talking about it and going up in there and discussing it. So then, here we go. And now they start talking about Gintama. And Naito asks, how long did you originally think the Gintama how long was it gonna be? And Sorachi says, I guess I thought I could probably keep it up for around 30 volumes. You know, I was frantic getting through each week. I couldn't think about how long before I would end it. Though as a reader, I don't think I'd buy a manga that went for 77 volumes. Hey, Sorachi, man. If it was actually available over here, trust me, I promise you from the bottom of my heart that I would have bought every single volume, man. Every single volume, bro. And then right here, we see the salvaged phantasmal panels cut from the final chapter. And we see some of them right here, once again, because I'm expecting that no one here is an anime only. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of these final pages. So we see a page right here with Shinpachi and Kagura talking to Shoyo, and but the text, you can't really tell what the text is. You get another extra panel of Gintoki looking back as the light is going off whenever the explosion goes off. You get to see a panel of young, small Tama looking out and about. We see a panel of Katsura and Sakamoto looking very stressed out while everything's cracking and being destroyed around them. Then we get to see Kyubei and her squad right here from back at the Yagyu household. And then we get to see some really beautiful panels with Tsukuyo and Hinoa as they're just looking out at what I'm assuming is Yoshiwara and whatnot. And some of them are incomplete here, but some of the really, really beautiful panels that really would have added more to that finale. But because that entire final portion felt like one big final chapter anyways, I understand why the Sorachi had to cut some of this out. But like I said, for some of this stuff right here, if Sorachi felt like it was really necessary, give these cut pages to the staff whenever they're making the movie, and I guarantee you they'll put that in there. Because I'm pretty sure that final scene showcasing all this for 704 is going to be one long credit sequence, man. Showing off all that stuff is going to be one long, pretty sure it's going to be opening one, it's going to be Prey, playing dan 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 dan. It's going to show everybody where they're at right now, and that junk would hurt, man. It would hurt a lot, but regardless, that's some of the cut content. And then here we go. They're just talking about, certain things and how long it is. Sorachi. So then Naito asks, in one sentence, what would you say is the theme of Gintama as a series? Sorachi's like, theme? Manabe says, I've asked that before, and I believe you said you wanted to draw a story where even if your path has twists and turns, even if you go to different places, in the end you come back to the same place. Yo, man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That is just complete 100% Gintama in that one sentence. Man. So then they start talking about how Gintama has no special techniques. Sorachi's trolling, talking about how certain things with how he fits in his narration style and in the way that he does his battles and whatnot. Sorachi's thoughts after finishing the final chapter on how he thinks what are some things he thought he improved on. And Sorachi says, after finishing the final chapter, the first thing I thought was, in the end I didn't get any better at drawing manga, did I? And really just felt a sense of defeat in that regard. And then we just have a couple more things of them trolling here. They start talking about an editor, which was Date Sensei, that went to, or I should say an assistant that went to go work for One Piece. And Oda took a liking to him immediately, and Sorachi said the reason for that is because he was easy to talk to and knew how to create a mood in the workplace. And they start talking about a few more things right here about them as editors. More trolling about them as editors. Let me see, they're talking about Sorachi being extremely logical when it comes to being a mangaka and how he handles certain things. He starts talking about... let me see. Oh yeah, because whenever Kuroko no Basket ended, they were talking about what would be good for Fujimaki to work on, and apparently they talked for 2 hours, and their imaginations ran wild, and they ended up going home without talking about Gintama at all that one night. And apparently they were talking about how Fujimaki should go and do the same thing Inoue did, which was transition from Slam Dunk into a Vagabond type of series or something like that. I thought it would be very, very interesting. And they were just talking about stuff like that. They start complimenting Sorachi and how good he is at drawing sword fights, which I definitely agree. They even bring up certain specific instances, like whenever Saito brings up whenever they were fighting Hosen and the Yoshiwara in Flames arc, and how well paneled that was and well structured that was. And I completely agree 100% on that. Let me see. And then, so right here, what created Gintama? This stuff right here is so fascinating, man. This is so fascinating to me. So Sorachi says, and I think I'm going to read all this. Sorachi says, so this entire article right here, there's part of the article is called "What Created Gintama." Sorachi says, I don't think I've really talked about this, but when I was in elementary school, I really loved, Tajima Sho Sensei's manga, Madara. Having only ever seen the typical oblong eyes in shonen manga up until that point, the long and narrow eyes in that manga really made an impact on me. I copied that style a lot in my own drawings, and the girls' uniforms were cute too. I really wanted to capture those qualities, but I couldn't do it completely. Saito says, now that you mention it, the way that both of you draw eyes is kind of similar. Isaka says, I don't think there are many artists out there that have copied your style, though, Sorachi-san. Sato says, I think the way you deliver lines has really affected people, though. I've seen regular people mimicking it online, like Sorachi's sentence structure. The way Sorachi structures the sentences has inspired me as an author, man. Real talk. I think Sorachi, to me, my favorite, when it comes to dialogue, I feel like it's safe to say that Sorachi's probably delivered upon some of my favorites, like between Sorachi and Kojima. Like, the entire circle of, like, amazing dialogue that I've read with, like, Sorachi, Hideo Kojima, you have Nisio Isin from the Monogatari series, and you have Galactic Heroes. Like, they just have some incredible dialogue within their series, like, with the way that their narration goes, or just how like certain sentences flow with each other, how certain characters speak, and how the differences in how certain characters speak, and how they fit their particular series. I really like how those individuals write, and Sorachi's right up there as having some of my favorite lines of dialogue of all time. So that was really cool for them, seeing that. Sorachi's talking about how, yeah, I definitely see some stuff online, like, yeah, Gintama talking isn't funny. And so they continue to talk about stuff like that, and how, like, whenever Sogo first appeared, since Sogo has first appeared, sadist characters have become more of a thing in certain series. And Sorachi replies to that saying, yeah, but those existed in variety TV shows and stuff before then. I always have the TV on when I'm working, so I think TV and radio have had more of an effect on me than my manga. 100% no, Sorachi, bro. I disagree with you there. TV and radio has most certainly impacted your manga. I can just imagine. Let's take the Onmyoji arc as an example. I guarantee you Sorachi was just watching the Weather Channel one day, and the Onmyoji arc just came into his mind. Like, you know what? Why not tackle Ketsuno Anna having an entire backstory with exorcists and this whole thing that would turn into one of the most hilarious arcs in the entire series. Then I'm pretty sure one of those weeks later, a Berserk chapter came out. He was like, "Oh God, let's put in Pandemonium one of these chapters." Like, I can't. Like, Sorachi just seems like that type of dude that on a weekly basis he feels like writing something, so he's gonna write it. And that's why one day I just want to talk to him about his writing process, bro. Like, God, how do you come up with this stuff, man? And he says, I got hooked on the comedy team downtown, to the point I'm listening to them on late night radio all the time. And at the same time, I got hooked on Shibari Rotaro Sensei's novels and some stuff like that. I think the mix of those opposing ideas is maybe what gave birth to Gintama. And then they start talking about how, is there any particular stories that he's used, where he's experienced in real life, and he talks about this one particular thing about this woman who just kept vomiting that stuff, and they start comparing Sorachi to Gintoki and saying certain things like that, which I think is very, very funny. So this one right here is very fascinating. He says, well, you know, our image is Sorachi Hideaki equals Sorachi Sakata Gintoki. And Sorachi replies to that saying, well, Gin-san is a character I made as a projection of objects of men's admiration, like in the TV show Tante Monogatari, detective story, and things like that, so he's not me. Just to make the character expand a bit, I added some elements of me into him, like the part about being more of a Dragon Quest guy than a Final Fantasy guy. Laughs. I'm a really timid, doing dumb stuff all the time type. I can tell, bro. So rough types that don't sweat the details are people I admire and consider strong, like the comedian Chihara Seiji-san. I bought his book, Rough Power. And then 4 hours in, Oni-san joins the party, and then they start talking about some more things between the common features of Sorachi and Gintoki. And then, they start talking about certain things when it comes to how similar they are, and then they start talking about how incredible Gintama's character designs are. And then just continue going through that, just talking about Takasugi's initial introduction. And this scene right here is very, very interesting, bro. As a Galactic Heroes fan, I love this line right here, bro. So listen to this. For the Shinsengumi, apparently Sorachi was influenced by Castlevania Symphony of the Night as a design for the Shinsengumi uniforms. Now, I have not played Castlevania Symphony of the Night, so I'm going to look into that and just see what inspired the Shinsengumi outfits, because that's very, very interesting. So apparently that was the inspiration for the designs of the Shinsengumi. Now, when it comes to Gintoki's design came from this. Now, listen to this. Sorachi says, well, for Gin-san, I ripped off elements from a whole bunch of places, so I'm not really sure myself. The kimono and the boots are stuff like Sakamoto Ryoma's. I'm pretty sure having one arm outside of the kimono was because I saw the package illustration of Nobunaga's ambition, and he only had one arm in the sleeve, and thought that was so cool. So I ripped that off. But I think I was conscious from the beginning that it was a sort of Japanese and Western style clothing jumbled together. I feel like in manga, when we look at a character, it has to be enough to tell us stuff like what era it's set in and what kind of world is being built. That's very fascinating. And he also says that he's really into video games, so he got a lot from them, which I can tell. You know, Sorachi, you can just tell from all the stuff that he's written that he's really, really into video games, which I definitely understand because I myself have also taken a lot of inspiration from video games, but I just feel like because video games provides some... It's way more of a visual medium, so like you can get a lot more when it comes to designing certain characters. Like some of the most amazing character designs come from video games. I 100% deal with that. So then here we go. They continue, and then Onishi asks, Ginsan's design was Ginko, wasn't it? Ginko from Mushishi. And Sorachi's like, Ginko? Like the female Gintoki? And Onishi's like, no, Ginko from Mushishi. And then Nakasaki says, I do remember you having the volumes of Mushishi around since way back. And then Sorachi says, if I had to pick someone, I'd say Ginsan is most like Reinhard from Legend of the Galactic Heroes. When I read that, I was like, bro, I take Gintoki to be more like a Yang Wen-Li type, not a Reinhard type. But he was just talking about his hair. He was like, Reinhard had naturally wavy hair too, so right? So I messed it up even more. This guy's insane, bro. But yeah, and then this is right here, Sorachi. I really don't think I was projecting myself with the design. Honestly, Ginsan's prototype was Sanmoto, Gorozaimon, and Shirokuro. He was the protagonist of a shonen manga, so I figured I'd make his hair would be all fluffed up and aloof. But when I stuck the Reinhardt in, it became a lot limper hairstyle. Freaking Sorachi, man. So then they start talking about certain things that they have in terms of connection to the series itself and the color pages, where Sorachi apparently would take a lot of time, racking his brain over the composition of certain color pages. That was very, very difficult for him. So he would continue to go talk about that. Honda talks about one of our favorite illustrations, because whenever I talk about two people in the community, they always bring up this color page, and it's a great one. And Honda says, I really love the illustration of Hijikata for the Baragaki arc, the Thorny arc, in the color page. That one was really beautiful, bro. That's the same color page they used for Wonderland in opening 11, when they show Hijikata with like the one, he's holding the Shinigami, or the Shinsengumi jacket over his shoulder, and he just has the fresh vest on. I love that cover page. He has like the chains around him. It's so cool. It's so cool. But yeah, they start talking about the characters that he has the most attachment to. Sorachi says, well, that'd be the Yorozuya, obviously. And Saito says that he thought that it was Hasegawa. And, that's very interesting, because for a long time, I also thought that Sorachi was most invested into Hasegawa. Now, this one right here is very interesting. Manabe says, when I was reading the final chapter, I actually forgot he existed for a minute until he showed up in it. That was a really funny scene, I agree. Sorachi says, I have a kind of warped attachment to Hasegawa, but since the basis of the series is Gintama, of the series Gintama is the three members of the Yorozuya. And Onishi says, but chapter 2 was about Hasegawa, right? He appeared before Kagura did. And Sorachi said, to be 100% honest, that's because I originally had a plan for Hasegawa to join the Yorozuya. Can you imagine that? Hasegawa and the Yorozuya? Basically, when I was thinking about the composition of the Yorozuya with Gintoki at the top, I felt like they needed someone to sort of lower the degree of freedom, so I felt there needed to be an adult character in the mix, which would literally end up being Otose, from what I can imagine. So I feel like that if Hasegawa were at the top of the organization, then Gensai wouldn't be able to do whatever he wanted. In the end, it just felt like he didn't fit, so I scrapped the idea. That's very, very fascinating, like super, super fascinating. They start talking about certain questionnaires and how the questionnaire for the chapter whenever the Shinsengumi first appear and Hijikata and Gintoki have that battle on top of the rooftops was the first chapter where Sorachi's Gintama ranked #1 in the magazine. And Sorachi's like, oh, that's only because people like the Shinsengumi. Like, it's not because of me, it's because of the Shinsengumi. It's like, well, guy, you created the Shinsengumi. You know what I'm saying? So they just started talking about certain things after that. And then right here, this is the stuff I really want to talk about. So this is right here on what Sorachi Sensei is doing from here. So, and let me just pull this back a bit. He says, well, what am I going to do next? I really don't have anything but manga, so yes. But I think if I'm writing my next work, this time I'll draw a growth type of protagonist. A growth type of protagonist. So, and he says, Gensan was already grown from the start. He's not really a type to grow bigger. So yeah, the kind of protagonists in manga that sell like crazy are all growth types. So Sorachi drawing a different type of character for his next work? Oh man, I'm super, super excited. I'm super excited because you guys know how I feel about Gintoki. Gintoki's my favorite character ever, man. I mean, it's between him and Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid as my #1 favorite character of all time in fiction. So I love me some Gintoki. And the fact that he wants to make another a growth type of character who goes on a journey and learns, bro. Like, whenever I think about stuff like that, I think of Luffy. I think of Johnny Joestar. I'm like, yo, I would love for Sorachi to write a character like that. Dog, that'd be beautiful. So it's like, all right. I see you, Sorachi. I'm super looking forward to seeing what he works on next. So it continues on from there. Saito, do you want to draw shonen manga for your next series too? Sorachi says, yeah, I think so. If I went to a seinen magazine, I don't think it'd be well received there. Once you go into a seinen manga, dirty jokes become the norm. That's just so interesting. Nagasaki says, so you think there's value in having done Gintama in a shonen manga? Sorachi says, well, I thought it might be good to be thrown into a place where I'm not comfortable. It might actually be best for me to go to a place like Koro Koro Comic, which is a children's comic, or a children's magazine. But I think I've more than proven that even changing to a monthly schedule won't make me stop breaking deadlines any less, so I guess weekly, it's more flashy. And it says, Osaka, so you're not into the idea of being some sort of extreme erotic thing then? Maybe clothed erotic would be more up your alley? This man Sorachi doesn't care what magazine he's in. He's always going to slip the jokes in there, bro. I can promise you that, especially when it comes to that stuff. And he says, man, wow, man, I worked my butt off for 15 years drawing manga. Then I get told to try some clothed eroticism. That's just classic Sorachi comedy right there. If I were to pick something I'd like to see Sorachi-sensei tackle just once, it'd be a manga without any gag elements. I can't even imagine Sorachi writing a manga with no gag elements, but that would be something interesting. And then Saito says, if I were to pick, Misaka says, what? You just clip his wings just like that? And Saito says, Yagi Norihiro Sensei did Angel Densetsu, which, I was reading that. And I dropped it because I just was reading some other stuff, but I was really enjoying that. Angel Densetsu, that was a really good series. And it followed it up with the series manga Claymore. I did not know that the same person who wrote Angel Densetsu wrote Claymore. Now that is a difference in atmosphere and vibe. That's crazy. So Claymore was good. I had no idea if Sorachi-san can make a serious manga good or not. I just kind of want to know if he can. Yo, so Sorachi's just doing a serious manga would be crazy. But the thing is, knowing Sorachi, he just would not be able to contain himself. He probably would start off like, yeah, let's do a serious series. And then, because of the way Sorachi is and the type of dude that he is, there would be no way that there would be, at the very least, not some sort of comedy within his manga. It's Sorachi, bro. That's impossible. But if he were to do it, that'd be even more impressive. But we'll see. It's like I've always said here on the channel, there are a few authors that no matter what they pull out, no matter what it is, I will read their works. No matter. Sorachi, with 100% certainty, the moment he writes another series, I'm covering here on the channel. If I am still doing YouTube, I will cover it on the channel. And if I'm not doing YouTube, by God, I'm reading it. I'm reading it on my own. I will, anytime that this man will decides to create a series, however many years, it looks like it's going to be soon, so it means I'm still going to be doing YouTube, but however many years from like here until the Flagnards that he decides to write this, man, 100%, I am going to read it. It's Sorachi. The man wrote the goatness of Gotama. There's no reason why I wouldn't read it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have way too many reasons to read another series by him. It's just one of those dudes for me, and I'll read whatever work he pulls out, man. Any work. He just has that thing, bro. I feel like Sorachi can write anything, and it would be masterful, because he just has that aspect to it. But then it says, what would be in it for me exactly? That's what Sorachi says. And I don't think the readers really want that either. Saito says, well, because of the anything goes nature of Gintama's world, you always had lots and lots of choices, right? Like whether you want to do a comedic story or a serious story. So if you then limit yourself to serious, then it might create some more consistency. Sorachi says, I mentioned this before, but for my next work, I want to make use of a voice of heaven narration. Also, I might have some special techniques in screaming. I'll keep screaming dirty jokes until I die. As he should. That's our Sorachi, bro. Can you imagine Sorachi drawing a manga where people are screaming out techniques? That's probably going to be some of the funniest stuff ever, man. Just knowing the way Sorachi does things. So the more extreme version of that is just to do kamishibai, right? Picture story shows. Saito says, I can see the rumor spreading now. This incredible kamishibai, you gotta go see it. Then he starts talking about certain things right here. Hey, I would like to read a picture book by Sorachi's son. That's what Manabe says. Me too, that's for sure. Let me see. Let me go into the next page. And then they talk about a certain idea where Sorachi would stop drawing and would instead write and somebody else would draw. He's like, I'd be totally fine with that. I don't have much love for my own drawings. And then Matsuo says, I think the original writer is probably the worst pattern for you. The artist will end up dead by the time you finish the conclusion arc, and nobody wants to have to deal with that disaster. Just knowing the way that Sorachi writes things. Let me see, and then they start talking about certain things. And then Isaka says, "Are you thinking of heading straight into serialization again, or are you thinking maybe doing something else like a one-shot or a miniseries?" Naito says, "I've said to Sorachi-san, maybe he should just rest for a bit. Meanwhile, I've been thinking about all the work I'd like to see him do and planning out all these projects in my head." Sorachi says, "The idea of trying to tackle something I've never done is interesting. Naito-san, the plan you brought with you, that was pretty interesting, such like bright new ideas." So, Sorachi's, he's already thinking, bro. My man wants to come back soon, which is awesome. And he says, I feel like it might be a good idea for him to get himself out there in some way besides with manga. Sorachi-san is the type that'll die if he doesn't keep moving. That includes time spent idling when he's doing a weekly series. Sorachi said, "I personally don't feel like taking a break either. I like being busy." And then Matsuo pretty much brings up an idea that Sorachi could do like a... You guys know how Araki did a manga in theory and practice type of book? I love that book. That's Matsuo basically says Sorachi should do something like that. Talking about his creative process. Sorachi makes a book talking about his creative process. I would buy that 3 times over. 3 times over, dog. And then Saito says, "But whatever format it ends up in, making your next work is going to be very difficult. Even if you draw the same kind of comedy manga, you can't wipe away the image of the 77 volumes of Gintama all that easily." Sorachi says, "That's true. This would be my second work, wouldn't it? My first work being Gintama is really going to loom large." And then they pretty much start asking him the foundation of your work is probably still going to stay the same. Sorachi says, "I kind of get the feeling no matter what I'll write, I'll always have the Gintama smell to it. I think that comes with Gintama being a kind of has everything series." I agree 100%. And they start talking about certain things, trolling with their last words. They even bring up like Senna and Hiruma from Ice Shield and Ippo and Takamura. And certain things there. They start talking about certain things in V-Jump and Jump Magazine. And how about like their histories as being editors. And they start passing on drunk and whatnot. It's like, you know what? They just end up stopping it here. But then Saito, this is interesting. Saito says, "Please just write bzz for his part, okay? Then I guess I'm next. I've stepped away from the manga department, so while not quite with what Manabe was saying, I think I've come up with a game project plan that fits the type of author Sorachi Sensei is really well. And that is something just for my personal taste, but I'd love to product a sort of philosophy of creative writing from him. I would love to too." And listen to what he says here. "I think a book that brought together the thoughts of 3 great authors with the best language skills are the ones I've worked with. Togashi Yoshihiro Sensei, bro. Togashi, Asahiro Daisuke, and Sorachi. Dog, if he actually ever brought out a book that had the creative process in the minds of those 3, I would, like I said, that I would buy it 3 times over, I'd buy it 10 times over. Togashi Yoshihiro and Hideaki Sorachi? Talk about their creative process? Bro, I would use this thing as like my go-to. That's my scripture, dog. I'd be like, yo, whenever I would need help on, okay, man, what do I need to do next in the writing process? What did Togashi have to say? Sorachi? Like, yo, that'd be beautiful, dude. I would take that 100 years over. And they ended up there with a picture of all of them right here together. And the next thing is the manga page right here at the end, man. But yo, yo, this interview was absolutely downright hilarious, man. Great stuff, absolutely fantastic. Just seeing how all of them are together and how they embody the true soul of Gintama, man. Absolutely amazing stuff. So let's get right into this, bro. Now, the moment that I saw there's going to be a Ginpachi-Sensei section just in manga form, I was like, yo, I gotta react to this, bro. I gotta react to this. So you have Ginpachi-Sensei here. The rest of the squad here, from what I can tell, it's Shinpachi, I think Sogo's right here in the back, Katsura, and Kagura. Right. Says, "Okay, everybody, listen up. The story finally made it to the final chapter, so that means you idiots that have been repeating grades over and over and over again are finally graduating. And on that note, here's our new transfer. Here's Sorachi Hideaki-kun." You see a massive gorilla entering the premises. If anyone has any questions for Sorachi, now's the time to ask. "Sensei, what do you mean questions? How can you hold a conversation with a gorilla?" Hey, Kondo, you should be the last one asking that question. Kondo should be the last one asking the guy. He says, "Oh, what's he saying?" "Oh, here's, Oh, I don't get it. You see, Otai. Sensei, I feel that a school with two gorillas is no longer a school, but more of a zoo at that point. That is true. Can I go home? Okay, I got it, Kondo. Sorachi, Otai, all of you go back to your cages. Oh yeah, because Otai is considered one too. And then Otai starts stepping on Ginpachi-Sensei. Shoyo! You can't do this to me, bro. You can't do even in a comedic fashion. You can't just present Shoyo without warning, bro. I can interpret it if you like, Sensei. Oh, you're the Sensei Shoyo! Having repeated school years for an eternity, I've learned his language. Someone who's repeated school years for an eternity is just an idiot, Shoyo. Yo, these guys are insane. This is Kondo-kun's question. Why did this rare disaster for all of Jump history, 2 fake-out final chapters, and numerous delays happen? Good question, Kondo-kun. I don't remember asking a dangerous question like that, Sensei. I think this guy really is an idiot. I see. Is that right? Sensei, do we really not have an interpreter then? Okay, well, it's a rather delicate topic, so he says, why while wrapped in a banana peel? Sensei, please wrap it up in a sugar coating. Something like this. I was playing Sekiro. This man was out here playing Sekiro, of course. Classic Sorachi video games. Sensei, that banana peel is not doing anything. I can see Sekiro bursting out of it. It isn't a banana, it's Ishin sticking out of Genichiro's back. That sure looks tough to deal with. Stop talking about Sekiro, you're gonna get flamed online. Are there any other questions? Sensei, I'm scared, so I can't. Yes, Sensei. So as the end of the story, Sakata Gintoki's birth is still a mystery. What happened with regard to that? Yo, I know, right? Like, a lot of people really wanted to know what happened with Gintoki's birth, but I'm glad Sorachi didn't write about that, because to be honest, it really wasn't... We really didn't need to know about that. You know, it's more of that mystery aspect to Gintoki's past that really added to him being one of my favorite characters ever. Among readers, there's a theory that since he has silver hair, that he might be half a Monto. Okay, then is purple-haired Sachan half old Osaka lady? What does half Osaka lady even mean? You see Kyubey right here. Down, Sarutobi. You're not an old Osaka lady, you're only half. You're like an old Nagoya lady. I'm still an old lady. Oh, I know silver-haired men are old Sugamo men, right? Unfortunately, that's not correct either. And if he says he wants to keep the reason as to why Sakata Gintoki's hair is silver a secret to all of us, and he'll only talk about it wrapped in the banana peel, like this. And he says because it's a manga. Because it's a manga. Great answer. Great answer. Sensei, that was just a totally blunt answer. Come on, banana peel, do your job. Okay, does anyone else have a question? Sensei, please just give it up. You're just making yourself look bad. 15 years of hard work is going up in smoke. Then I will turn everything to the void with this question of destruction. You see Utsuro right here. Sensei, this doesn't look good. Shoku's other personality and Saichi Utsuro-kun is activated. He sounds like he's going to ask a 12 question. That's no joke. Sorachi-kun, I ask you this question. Are bananas considered snacks? It is Shoyo took back over at the last second. Don't get in my way, Shoyo. What I want to ask is, are bananas considered royalties? No, bananas are snacks. It kind of looks like both of these two have garbage questions. Bananas are royalties. Bananas are snacks. Someone stop these two. Maybe stop this one idiot would be more accurate. Anyway, any more questions? I'm gonna say, what even is Obazi anyhow? Oh God. Here comes Katsura, bro. Man, you don't give up. Sensei. He said, hold on, man. Sorachi, you can't just bring out the goat, bro. You can't just bring out the legend. You can't just bring out, man, the goat, bro. Look how fresh Takasugi looks, bro. Let me say, so at the end, did I die or am I alive? Which is it? Takasugi-kun. Is Takasugi-kun the one who was in the vague life or death state at the end of the manga? But obviously avoided giving a clear depiction of giving people hope. Or are you prepared to accept the truth no matter how cruel it may be? Yes. And I'll be completely upfront. I just sort of didn't want to spare the pages for it, but rather than sticking in stuff about Takasugi, I decided I'd rather put in as many gags as I possibly could, so I figured that was enough. You can talk? Go after yourself on a banana peel, and you have Sorachi himself actually talking, because now Takasugi comes out, so you know Sorachi's gonna talk, bro. Yo, Takasugi, man, it feels so great to see him, bro. Okay, then, so either way it works, really. But if you really want to know, how about we vote to determine if Takasugi's alive or not? Don't decide someone's life or death by voting. So that's that kid's exposed butt in the final chapter. Was it revive Takasugi's butt? Or was it some kid that we don't know's butt? Vote on whichever you want. Takasugi's butt? Unknown's butt? Forget it, let's play Sekiro. Hey, let's play Sekiro, man. No, you know what? I'm going with Takasugi's. Sekiro makes me mad. At the very least, whenever I think about Takasugi, I get put in a happy place, man, because that's the GOAT. But Sekiro makes me mad, so I'm going to vote for Takasugi's. Sensei already put 2 votes in. Okay, let's go with Sekiro then. Sensei, I want to play. Me too, me too. One vote for everyone being dead. The end. Yo, they didn't even give a chance for this man Ginpachi to talk, yo. What is wrong with Sorachi, man? Yo, that was the greatest Ginpachi-Sensei ever, man. Greatest Ginpachi-Sensei. Sorachi Hideaku's handwritten comment. Thank you so much for purchasing the Gintama Final Fanbook Koujien. This is a spoiler for the volume, so I kept this hidden at the end. But I'm going to talk here about the end of Gintama on the pretense that everyone has read the final chapter. Oh, God. Real talk? Originally, my plan for the last page was the backs of the Yodozuya as they were running away. The idea being that a hero was someone who did what they had to do and then left like the wind. I like characters that can talk with their backs. I figured that a lot of protagonists in shonen manga who have grown up with the readers. So the story ends with the heroes now grown backs burned into their memories as they leave. And even with the sadness it entails, I don't think it would be an exaggerating to say I started drawing manga wanted to do that too. But after I thought about it for a while, Sakata Gintoki just didn't seem like the kind of person who would do that. Like, even if his back were there facing you, he would just run out of things to say with his back and then start flapping away with his lips. Also, Gin-san really isn't a growing protagonist. He's an adult character standing just a bit past where the readers are. So seeing his back is something common and fundamental for readers. So to just doggedly show that back again and leave the readers behind just didn't sit right with me. That's not how he is. He's got to go back to where the readers are, I thought. So it's not a back that's breaking for the final chapter and leaving. It's him running back home towards the readers. Sorachi, bro. This man said it's him running back home towards the readers, bro, because we accept them in our homes, dog. Sorry about that, my camera fell. It says that when I made that last scene, I realized that I had broken through lots of deadlines and done 2 fake final chapters. I'm very sorry for making everyone wait so long. Thank you all for waiting around for the very end. Thanks to you, I was able to say goodbye to the Yodozuya in a way that didn't feel lonely. Or to ask for something, it would be for everyone to leave just a little space in their hearts. For them to always be there. Being the same idiots as ever. Nothing would make me happier than that. Okay, then, see ya. We have a gorgeous final panel of Gintoki, Kagura, Ginpachi, and Sadaharu with Sorachi's signature. You have no worries about that, Sorachi, man. Because I guarantee you, not only for me, but for everyone else of us in the community, I think I can vouch for all of us saying that the Yodozuya will forever live on in their hearts, man. There's a part in my soul that will forever, ever, and ever, dog. Until I'm put under, 6 feet under, dog. There will always be a part of my soul, man, where the Yodozuya will reside, man. The true goats, bro. I know I've said this a million times this year, man. But thank you, Sorachi, bro. Thank you for creating this masterpiece, man. Thank you for creating this wonderful series that has connected so many people all around the world to talk about a trollish series that can just destroy us and make us happy in the same blibbing scene. I'm happy I was able to experience such a masterpiece, man. Go Tama greatness. I'll always be grateful for it. And I'm so glad that it exists, man. It was that one series, and no matter what happened, dog, when I go home from work, and I just needed something to take my mind off it, man, I could always count on Gintama, bro. I'm so happy that a series like that exists. And like I said, I know that's not just the case for me, but for a lot of other people too, bro. Just look at this panel, man. Our beloved Yodozuya. Before we sign off, let me go ahead and in classic Gintama fashion, bro. Let me read this again. But this time with Koko Samurai Kunida to sign us off, man. Ah, motherfucker. I was gonna do Prey, but I'm pretty sure that's gonna be in the movie. Let's do Koko wa Samurai Kunida. Damn it, man. You did this to me, Sorachi, bro. I didn't used to be this way, dog. Listen, dog. This man said, thanks to you, I was able to say goodbye to the Yodozuya in a way that they didn't feel lonely. If I were to ask for something, it would be for everyone to leave just a little space in their hearts for them to always be there, being the same idiots as ever. Nothing would make me happier than that. You know, man, I've been talking for about an hour, and reading that statement by itself has made my throat hurt more than this entire talking session. Thank y'all so much for being part of this journey. Thank y'all so much for being with me, man. Go Tama greatness. Thank you, Sorachi. And thank you for the community, man. Because y'all have made this such a wonderful place to reside and be in as a Gintama fan. I will see y'all next time. Talk about some more Gotama greatness. However it is that it may be, whether it be the anime, the manga, a movie, whatever the case may be, Gotama will forever exist in our hearts, man. And that's the way that Sorachi intended it. So thank y'all so much. Have a blessed one. And I'll see y'all next time, man.